Hello! Hello! I'm gonna... Okay, we're starting off right where we left, so yeah. Let me just... Where was I? However, even she was not totally immune to the influence of the clock. She'd never mentioned it to anyone, but she'd always felt oddly drawn to the elegant timepiece. Sometimes, as she made her way down the mahogany-paneled hallway, she felt as though it were actually calling to her. She found this somewhat unsettling, but also intriguing. She'd approach the wooden monolith with an odd mixture of curiosity and trepidation. Then she'd stare it down as though she were challenging it to a duel. Sometimes Nadia would catch her daughter in the act, her back rigid, her violet eyes peering into the clock's iridescent face the way one might stare down an adversary. Nadia was never quite sure of what to make of it. What an... I ruined the entire atmosphere just to put a little... What on earth are you doing, my dear? Her mother would ask. The clock. It watches me, is all that Elizabeth would say. Nadia always felt standing awkward. Nadia was always left standing awkwardly in the shadowy hall. I need to turn the page again. After her daughter had gone, she would approach the clock gingerly, trying to feel what Elizabeth had felt, but she could never feel anything but vague uneasiness. Things took an odd turn when, suddenly, the nightmares began. Each night at 3 a.m., Elizabeth would awaken screaming. It was a blood-curdling scream, the kind that caused people to freeze upright in bed, unable to move. Servants inevitably rushed in to assist her. They always found her in the same posture, in a tight ball under the covers, face on knees. When she was extracted from her sheets, she seemed always surprised, as though she'd been set free from a terrible trap. Then she'd roll over and go right back to sleep as though nothing at all had happened. This went on for a fortnight. Various attempts were made to explain the sudden appearance of the nightmares, but no solution could be found. I'm getting spooked. When inquired, Elizabeth could never really recall what happened to cause her to scream, but she felt vaguely that was somehow connected with the front hall and the clock. I'm turning my lights on. Hold on a sec. It's dark in my room. I don't like that while reading this, and I'm going to just turn the lights are turned on. Yeah, that was probably like all muffled from my bed because I'm reading this on my bed. Okay. Maybe I should try and make this episode like... Okay, I'm going to do one episode where I read like a whole... Okay. Where a whole creepypasta and see if I made capable of publishing it. It's gonna be longer than 15 minutes. So yeah. Okay, where was I? After 2 weeks of disturbed sleep, Nadia had become desperate. The staff looked half dead and she was at her wit's end. Determined to find a solution, Nadia decided that since Elizabeth seemed bothered by the clock, perhaps she should try having it removed for a while. She called some friends at the local antiques dealership and asked them if they could be willing to keep the clock for a spell. They reluctantly agreed. After all, who would want to take the protection on such an expensive heirloom? Removing the clock was a massive undertaking, but in the end, Nadia was glad she'd gone through with the operation. Almost immediately, the screaming stopped. Indeed, Elizabeth slept soundly for another fortnight. After 2 weeks of peace, Nadia was on the verge of declaring the whole experiment a rousing success. However, she soon discovered that she need not have been so bold. On the 4th 15th night, instead of screaming, Elizabeth rose at precisely 3 a.m. In a dreamlike state, she walked... Hold on a sec. In the dreamlike state, she walked out of her room, down the upper hallway, down 2 sets of stairs, past the landing, through the gallery, all the way to the front hall where the clock once stood. There, she stood up absolutely still for about 10 minutes, and then, as if someone had snapped his fingers, she'd awakened, startled and confused. This was all discovered through pure chance. A servant had risen to get a glass of water because she couldn't sleep. When she entered the front hall, she saw Elizabeth standing there in a nightdress. Then, while she watched, Elizabeth seemed to stir and look around. It was clear the girl had no idea why she was in the front hall. The same set of events transpired in the following evening. This went on for another 2 weeks. That's when Elizabeth began to see the girl. At first she was small, clear light, strangely fog-like and murky. However, as time passed, she became more and more distinct. The first time it happened, Elizabeth didn't know whether she should stay and observe the strange apparition and run screaming from the hall in terror. She chose the former, which much to the relief of the rest of the household. This went on for some time. The talking, the walking, the waking, and the seeing of the bizarre glowing girl in the hall. However, it was tolerated because Elizabeth didn't seem to mind any or to anyone else. No one was being awakened at 3 a.m., no one's sleep was being disturbed, and Elizabeth rarely spoke of it. Indeed, a kind of routine developed. The only thing that seemed to change was Elizabeth's location. Sometimes she was directly across from the clock, other times she was kitty-corner from it. Sometimes she was down the hall farther. It became a game of inserts to bet on where she would turn up from one night to the next. Indeed, the serving staff drew lots each evening to determine whose sleep would be disturbed. In most cases, the servant who won would have to rise at 3 a.m. and take a peek over the banister to see where she was. The following morning, the staff member would report Elizabeth's location the previous night, and payouts would be made. One December night, Susan, the pantry maid, drew the shortest straw. However, her room was in a different part of the house than much of the serving staff, because her room was located right next to the kitchen. This is why, when Susan came to the front hall, she was able to see not only Elizabeth, but also the little ghost. Elizabeth has awakened several minutes before Susan's arrival, and therefore had heard her approaching. Elizabeth turned to look at Susan, but the maid seemed not to see Elizabeth at all. She was completely mesmerized by the shimmering light glowing softly at the base of the wall where the clock once stood. Elizabeth was completely unmoved by the sight of the ghost in the hall. She'd seen it for weeks. Instead, she looked up at Susan and asked, "What are you doing up?" "What are you doing up?" "Who is that?" pointed Susan, ignoring the question. "The girl," Elizabeth answered quite naturally. "She comes here every night." "The girl?" Elizabeth answered. Oh wait, oops. "Does she always look like that?" Susan moved closer, claimed by Elizabeth seemed indifferent. She studied the strange apparition, unable to take her eyes. I told her I was going to read over. Unable to take her eyes from the figure of the ghostly little girl who sat with her face down and her knees drawn up. Yes, she's always in that position. I don't know why." Elizabeth shrugged. "She seems sad." "Does she move?" Susan took a dare step forward. "Does she speak?" "I've never tried to speak to her," Elizabeth replied. "All I know is she doesn't move and she never looks at me." "I wonder if she speaks if you addressed her. She must be here for some reason, mustn't she? I mean, you just can't eat out each night in the drafty hallway for no reason, do you?" I don't know, Elizabeth shrugged again. It's not as though she can feel the chill. For shame! Susan said quickly, chastising her in a harsh whisper. You don't know what she feels. True, but neither do you, Elizabeth challenged. I suppose that's true enough, Susan admitted. A brief silence followed before she spoke again. It's odd, though, her sitting there like that. I feel like she's there for a reason, but I don't know what it is. Like she has something important to say, but she doesn't speak. Maybe you should try speaking to her, Susan suggested. I don't think she'd speak with someone else here. I'm not sure why. Well, maybe you should go back to bed then, Susan whispered before attempting to tiptoe away. Just then, the glowing figure faded in brightness and disappeared. She's gone! Susan breathed, walking forward suddenly. Aye, she does that. She's only here a short while, Elizabeth answered nonchalantly. I wonder where she goes, Susan said, not really expecting an answer. I've often wondered why she suddenly started appearing. The clock was always there before, wasn't it? It's odd. I used to walk down this hallway after dark all the time, but I never saw her until recently, Elizabeth replied. Susan grew brave and moved closer. On a whim, she began running her hand through the air near the place where the spectre girl once sat. She glanced as absent-mindedly at Elizabeth and noticed the girl's confused expression. Ashamed, Susan began tapping on the wainscot instead. She wasn't even sure what she was looking for, really, except some clue to where the ghost might have come from or where she might have gone. At one point, she patted an area of the wall. She was startled by the strangely hollow sound that emanated from it. That's all! 12 minutes! Hope you'll see me. Bye!